Commissioner White. And Commissioner Thurlow.
Present.
And we move on to item 2. This is the opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. So if you are here for something that is not on the agenda, this is your time to speak, and we need to time you 3 minutes. Okay. And we have anybody online tonight?
We have a few people online. I don't know that they want to speak. If you guys want to speak online, let us know.
On non-agenda items? All right.
Okay, we're done. We will close. We have to the approval of the minutes from October 16th, 2024. Or a motion.
The roll call, unfortunately, the minutes being unclear to me, and it was not clear if Commissioner Stephen Matlock was present or absent the way it was.
Okay. We'll make that clear. Okay.
And is there anything else? If not, then we're looking for a motion with that amendment.
Motion to approve.
And now we will move on to item number 4, which is the public hearing, the discussion and recommendation for the NC amendment.
All right, so the subject before the planning commission tonight is the official zoning map and some related municipal code amendments that implement the city's comprehensive plan update. So this has been an update that's been going on for the last year and a half. And what this does is correspond with the draft zoning map that has been reviewed over the course of the last year with the land use element. And I can go through some of those amendments more specifically. And together with that, we'll also describe amendments to the North Bend Municipal Code that correspond with this. So let me just go up to the map. That's probably the easiest way to do that. So this map is a refined zoning map that we have highlighted the parcels that are actually changing. And so let me just start with the very left corner of the areas from low city limits. We have limits that are going from low density or employment park 1, which is a business park zone, to low density residential in consideration of the docket that was received. And in consideration of the topography on the site, that makes it difficult to do any kind of like industrial development. There's an amendment within the urban growth area. It's not within city limits at this time, so it would be future zoning upon annexation to go from low density residential to high density residential or multifamily essentially. An amendment here to go from low density residential to downtown commercial adjacent to the roundabout, between the roundabout and where the fire station is. And that was also in response to dockets that were received requested. We have amendments in this area to change these properties from what has been employment park 1, a light industrial zone, to medium density residential, which is more of a commercial zone that also allows second floor residential. And one of the primary reasons for that is to help us accommodate our required residential growth targets under the Growth Management Act. Moving east from there, there are amendments to go from currently neighborhood business to low density residential within this area between 140 and North Bend Way. And that's reflecting the built character of that neighborhood that's developed largely as single family residential. And so that's to continue that land use and provide a little bit more certainty to those residents that they're not going to see a lot of commercial developing as them. We also have amendments throughout the city, and this is, I think, where it actually, most of the notices that went out go out to property owners within 300 feet of an amending property. That's where I think a lot of these touched the 300 feet. And we got a lot of questions about this. The green that you see is parks, open space, and public facilities. And there are a number of amendments throughout the city where that has changed. And previously, a lot of that was just zones low density residential. And as developments or as subdivisions are built, we change that zoning designation when there's a protected tract, where it's protected specifically for open space purposes or critical area purposes, and it's to reflect that status as undevelopable for single family development. So that is kind of the principal amendments in the zoning map. And then in addition to that, we have a number of code amendments that are going along with our comprehensive plan update. So that is, first of all, a lot of name changes to our zones. And the intent of those name changes is to provide additional clarity as to the purpose of the zone. So we have our neighborhood business 2 zone that is changing to neighborhood business. So currently we have 2 neighborhood business zones, and we're trying to clarify that with simpler names. Neighborhood business reflects a commercial zone that does not allow residential use. We also have an neighborhood business, a current neighborhood business zone that we're changing to neighborhood mixed use. And that reflects that it does allow second floor residential in a mixed use context. We've got an employment park 1 zone currently, that's a light industrial zone. And we're changing the name of that to employment park. And we have an employment park 2 zone that we're changing to business park. And those have just very slightly different allowances and uses. Then finally, we have our cottage residential zone currently, and we're changing the name of that to neighborhood or to medium density residential, reflecting that it's not just cottages, but some other similar typologies that are already allowed within that zone. We are allowing an increase in height from 30 feet to 35 feet within our interchange mixed use zone. And that is also as necessary to accommodate some of our growth targets. 30 feet currently doesn't allow for a typical multifamily building, whereas 35 feet does. And interchange mixed use is the light blue area here. So that is a minor amendment that does allow us to increase our residential capacity. And then finally, we have a footnote that allows for only at exit 31 in the interchange commercial zone, north of Bendigo Boulevard, allows second floor residential. Currently, second floor residential is not allowed there, and this is largely at the outlet mall site. And the amendments propose to allow second floor residential there. We also have a minor amendment with a footnote within our table of uses that because of the change from the interchange or from the employment park 1 zone to neighborhood mixed use, there are a number of larger properties within that zone already that have light industrial type of uses. So warehouse buildings and larger properties that could accommodate warehouse type of uses, to enable those to continue rather than become a non-conforming use. We've provided a footnote in the table of uses that allows for that type of use where on properties that are greater than 2 acres in size, or where there is an existing warehouse building greater than 12,000 square feet in size on the property. So that allows continuation of those uses within the new change zone. So there is a summary of the amendments. Turn it back to the chair.
Yeah. If you have questions for staff, you ask questions and then we'll open public hearing and then the planning commission will discuss further. So are there any questions or clarifications that the commissioners would like?
Sure. Page 13. Table 18.1, 0.030. a quick question regarding, 3.33 and the, permanent uses with the notes designation of 12. Is that supposed to be 1 comma 2, or is that actually 12? And we just don't see note 12 in this packet because note 12 is not being altered. That's
The second part, yeah, there's a number of notes at the end of the table and we've only clipped some of the table.
I do want to also pass out, there was one correction within the packet. There was some carryover language that didn't get, or there was some new language that didn't get provided regarding indoor emergency shelters that has already been adopted. And,
Page
when we
21.
provided those amendments, we cut from the existing code online rather than from the ordinance that passed the recent amendment.
I'll just continue with that same table in the notes section. So if the notes are listed here, they've been altered from the previous version of the notes, yeah, right?
Yeah, the underline that you see, it says track changes, anything that's shown as underlined will be new text.
So there are some notes that do not show changes, like, are you not seeing any track changes?
I got more questions. Don't have any questions.
That would just be a setting on your computer about turning on track changes.
Mine is kind of red, I don't know if that's also.
The
I
PDF,
mean, like, specifically, if we're seeing these down here, it means they've been changed from the previous one,
Only if it's underlined.
only if it's underlined.
underline means added, and then strike through is deleted.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's as is.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
This page, yeah, this page added. Yeah, gotcha, okay, well, sorry, the instructions, I followed that note to code revisor, only following the table are amended, the table notes are also amended as shown, rows not included here and remain in full force in effect, so I interpreted that as anything that is being printed here.
Yeah,
Altered.
we just have to take a section as a whole. We can't take snippets of sections.
Yeah.
So when we do a cut and paste, take the section as a whole and show the changes of that section and go back from that.
Okay. Thanks, then that clarifies a lot.
Just to clarify, when we talk about high density residential, that's not any higher density than some of the multifamily that we already have.
No, it is our multifamily zone.
But it's not anything new that we're going to have like skyscrapers.
No.
Right. Okay, just verifying that it's something that we already see in the city.
Correct.
Mhm.
And then the height change 30 to 35 feet. Besides the outlet is also the interchange area, or is it just the overlay by exit 31? So is it
So
cut down as well?
The increase from 30 to 35 feet applies in the interchange mixed use zone. So that's everything that's shown in the light blue.
So it is just off of
It
30.
only exists off of 31.
Yeah.
If you are here for this item and would like to speak, you'll just say your name and the name and address, and I'll start the timer for 3 minutes.
And we ask that you speak especially loud. Normally we'd have better audio, but we're just picking up from the computer here. So
So at 6:45, we'll start the public hearing.
Dick Jensen, I live at 296 Wellesley Place, Northeastern North End. My question's on page 25. And really just trying to get an understanding if this is a name change or if this is a change of the density in that area. Because the road that goes off the second. They're pretty fun. It's 5. You guys really get a lot. We're looking at traffic configuration, you know, the units through there, like. We wanted to see if it's a name change or we actually looking at.
it is only a name change. So Nothing changes about any of the standards applicable to what was previously the cottage zone and is now the neighborhood mixed use zone. Just name.
Next item on the agenda.
Any,
This is all one item on the agenda, so. Yep, it's for your time if you would like to. So, yep, go ahead and put your name.
Just, can you say that slow and clear so we can make sure to get it for the record?
137. So I want to, this has been done for many years, the designation on the map of Wood River Tract D, which is shown in green there. It's shown in sandhogs in maps about parks and open space. And it's a private tract of land that is owned by the Wood River Homeowners Association that is deeded to the Wood River as a condition upon being able to plat that all the way back in 1993. Have all the documents here. The city should be very familiar with that. Over the course of many years since we were incorporated, the city has made attempts to take that property and make it living park, open space, all kinds of similar things. And we've had to come back many times over many different administrations to say no, that is a private piece of property that belongs to the HOA, which is comprised of 109 members. So I'm 109 ownership of that. We have a board member here from the board, who can speak on behalf of the actual board, I chair the architecture control committee. As a private owner, that is a private piece of property that is, the only easement is for open space so that we, the homeowners, can't develop it. We can't put a boat ramp there or a clubhouse or anything like that. It is a native growth protection easement. Many years, the city has tried to lay it in a number of different ways. I have to take back all the most egregious when John Davis development and then at Ridge, when we use it, the city actually used marketing material to present it to the city council as a public park. So we're all the other ones. We've got the city and we told the city at the end here, the shoreline meeting, no, we are not going to allow that. It is a private. It's got to be collectively instead of individually. Because the other property that sits directly below it. We are track B. There's, so I'm counting website because all of it shows it is a track. North Bend knows that that is the case because they had to get an easement to go across that track and put in sewer when they annexed us. I hope they wouldn't, I have that documentation as well. But after we got annexed, when we joined the ULID, then they had to get an easement to go over that piece of property. So North Bend knows, they've known for years that that is not a public parcel, it is not public access. However, they list it like that. And what they have made it so that we have all kinds of people coming from all over the parking along the ground, accessing that. Stop them and ask them, why are you kidding? Point says it's a public park.
Thank you so much for that.
It needs to be properly differentiated on that map. It is not fair to the rest.
So I think I definitely appreciate you bringing that to our attention. On this, the zoning map does call it parks and open space or public facilities. It doesn't mean that the city owns it, and it doesn't mean that the city is taking any claim to it whatsoever. This is a land use map. And so this is saying what kind of land that is. And so it is properly designated. So thank you so much for your comment. We're going to move on to the next person. Thank you. Okay, so if you want to stand and
Yeah, 3456456 Southeast on the very end of the cul-de-sac. Neighborhood. And I'm affected. I was invited here. I received a notice saying that there's going to be changes to property within 200 feet of my property. And I don't see any of that, those changes that we discussed previous to what Jeff brought up as being, affecting my property and your zoning changes now. So I've received this, maybe I shouldn't be here, but I'm here to tell you that when Jeff addresses at the end of the cul-de-sac there, when that shows as public property, I get foot traffic through my yard. People park in the gravel space at the end of the cul-de-sac. You can't get around the cul-de-sac. And people are, and I picked up a kayaker, this earlier this year that lost his, he was Scottish, we say, he lost my boot. So he lost his boat, right? Picked him up, took him to where his car was at. And this is, we get a lot of that kind of traffic. Now, he fell out of his boat. He climbed up the rock wall. And it's a rock wall, right? To get to where my property abuts. But going back to 2017, there was city maps that show that property is being run. And then since 2017, it's slowly turned green and it's got more and more green in that area since 2017. In fact, from the last map to 2024 map, they're actually showing a larger area now, embracing the actual Tanner areas as being public open space. It is not public open space. It's posted, it's private, and it's not public open space. I would like some respect. The fact that I pay taxes, I pay HOA dues, the HOA pays the taxes on the land. We would like to have some respect on the map, so we don't get the foot traffic in the issue.
Thank you. And I think, I'll point out too, my neighborhood has a park in it as well, which is private in the HOA. The HOA owns it. It's definitely private, but it's also listed in here. And so that's where I don't think that there is any attempt to be disrespectful of your property. You do own it, I don't think that the intent was ever meant to go that direction.
People read maps, right? They read, it's public.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, sir. And maybe we'll let staff.
Yeah, I think we're happy to, maybe after the public hearing concludes, to respond to some of that more.
Is anybody else here for this item?
Kevin Collins, 13705, 464 Southeast, also Wood River, be an HOA board member. And we've been to a couple meetings where we discussed this before, and our request is to change the color of that map, which seems pretty easy. The reason being, well, we really elevated when the survey went out about riverbanks and use and access way back early in the summer. And so almost everybody that saw this map with that listed as what looks like a park space. And so we basically broadcast, say, hey, come trespass on our property and park where these folks really gonna park their own car. There's less people visiting, and we force them to be monitors, put notes on people's windshields saying you're trespassing, please don't do this again, and so on. So they're having to police a situation that more or less got created by the map, got shared across most of North Bend and created an awareness. One of our big requests is to change that map to private property and make it public and print it out. Every place you see in the city will really help us out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I can imagine how frustrating that would be. Is anyone else here for this item?
Well, we do have some Jenna online. Either way, we'll finish in the room, Jenna, and then get to you.
Okay.
Sir, can I just interrupt for a second? Do you mind coming up a little closer or speaking louder so we can make sure to get you on the record?
Sorry for folks online. So we've heard we want to preserve the rural character and to manage the brook. Makes perfect sense. So can you help me understand where the targets are coming from? What's driving? What are the inputs to that? Just so I
Yeah.
understand.
Why don't we complete the public hearing, and I will respond to that after the public hearing.
That was basically just a little bit bigger print and a little bit more clarity, you know, because we were able to figure it out, but it was kind of hard to tell what's the impact. So I read this stuff a couple of times and I'm still trying to understand the magnitude, so what's the impact? Our neighbors didn't get it, which was surprising because we were one house and there's others around us. So that's all, that's my.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And you're welcome to just go ahead and look at the big map if you'd like to see more clearly.
Anyone here in person that would like to address this item as well? Yes, sir.
I'm here, my name is Charles Dowling. You know, 515,000 southeast, and my property goes to the leisure property, which is, as I heard, potentially connects to the city of North Bend. And that property is a high risk flood zone, and I don't think it's responsible to develop in high density because of that. I know there's other areas that have that AE designation that also have been developed, but all these properties aren't the same. I've been living there for 30 years, I've been flooded 6 times. We should look at, you know, how often these areas have been flooded. And maybe consider rebuilding more property. And affect the surrounding community around it, which is Shamrock Park and various estates, and they both flood a lot. And 90% of the homes in Shamrock Park were raised with county dollars and contributing personal dollars of the people who had their houses raised. And we can't live, we have to be 8 feet above the ground, living space. So when that property is developed, I understand you can develop garages underneath, be 8 feet off the ground, living spaces, but those garages will get flooded, the cars will get flooded, because it has to get built responsibly for the code. And it seems like it's more expensive than that.
That's up to you. Is there anyone else in person?
My name is Melanie, and I'm just 40. Can you hear me?
Yep, and maybe step a little bit forward just to make sure it's getting picked up. Thank you.
You know, my husband and I, we've been here almost 30 years. This place has been a, you know, beautiful mountain town. And, you know, we noticed that this increasing, you know, population density and, you know, it's losing its beauty. And it's, it feels like we're getting more like you know, those busy cities and who, you know, who is setting these growth targets? And I think that, you know, at some point there were numbers given, you know, what those targets were. And it seems like we've gone past them. I mean, we just continually are growing, and I wonder what the vision is for, you know, our city that we dearly love. I mean, we love the character, but I see all the, you know, the blue, the high density, and I worry that, you know, the infrastructure of the roads are not, you know, big enough. We don't. Is there room for all these, you know, people on the road? And you know, sometimes people get stuck at the circles. And, I mean, that's a lot of it, you know, but I see all, you know, all these people to come in and just kind of, you know, ruin the character that I love so much. And I like to go and speak for other people, but I have to just say for myself. But and also a lot of them, you know, for a long time in North Bend, waterways has been an issue, and whatever happened to that? You know, for so long the waterways were preventing things from getting built, and then the mule pasture, there was some big thing about the mule pasture, and it's curious that they never get solved. You know, how we're going to accommodate all the water, and then you know, industry and pollution in the water. are the kind of businesses coming in, are there waste, like they're, what kind of substances and chemicals are gonna come into our water? Oh,
Thank you. I'm sure there are many people that share your sentiments, so thank you for speaking up. Are there more in person that would like to speak? Okay, do we have anybody online?
Yeah, we do have Jenna Eastup.
Hello, my name is Jenna Eastep, and I want to thank,
Let's turn up the volume just a
Let me
second.
turn you up.
you can hear me or no?
Now we can.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name's Jenna Eastep, and I reside at 14636 in Renton, Washington, but I've been part of the North Bend community for many, many years. I'm speaking on behalf of George Wersch tonight. In 2022, George and I submitted a number of docket requests associated with the zoning code amendments. Many of those docket requests that we submitted were not taken up in this round of docket evaluations. And what we will be doing for next round is resubmitting many of the same dockets. George it owns property out in the IMU zone at exit 31. And we believe that many of the dockets that we suggested and submitted would be advantageous to realizing that small town character and seeing that parcel that is on the south side of the freeway developed in a way that I think North Bend and all of you would be proud of. So I'm just here to let you know that we're going to be part of the process moving forward, and we hope that next round we'll have an opportunity to present our position on many of these dockets, share our thoughts with you, and hopefully find a middle ground on the zoning, especially as it relates to the IMU zone south of the freeway, which has some unique, somewhat individually oriented zoning provisions that are not specifically applied citywide or zone-wise. So other than that, that's my comments. So you'll probably see me around, and I just want to say thank you for all the work you do. I know it's a tough job and it's very much appreciated. So thanks for the time today.
Thank you.
Right, anybody else online? Okay, not seeing any, all right.
Anyone else speak in person? Okay. I'll bring it back to- Beth, do you mind speaking on the open space
Mhm.
designation and?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, so I definitely hear the comment and understand the desire to make it very clear to the public, private open space versus public open space. And with the city's zoning map and other maps, there is no intent that the city is claiming any use of private open space. That's simply how the zoning map has read in the past with the parks open space or public facility zone. It's just a reflection that that is not available for development of single family homes. In the future, the city could refine that map more to have maybe some subcategories within that zone to say private open space and public open space. So that's something I think that would be a great work program to add to our 2025 Planning Commission calendar to revise that.
The same word, put into the same description as all.
Thank you for your input. Close the public hearing. So this time staff has been addressing this, and I think it's a great thing for us to review in this coming year. I think it would be great to have different colors. So thank you for that.
So we also heard a lot about growth targets. Where do those targets come from, and how do we address concerns about how we're growing as a community, and maybe if we feel like we're growing too fast? That's a common thing that we hear. I'm a local resident as well, and I certainly am not very excited about huge amounts of change. But those growth targets are a reflection by the state legislature that we have a housing crisis throughout the state, and it's particularly severe in the Puget Sound region. And the tendency of local jurisdictions is to say, I don't want to take that growth. Seattle, you take that growth. And Seattle says, we've taken enough growth. Bellevue, you take that growth. And nothing happens. And the crisis for affordable housing gets worse and worse. So what the legislature has done is said, we're going to take a forecast of the population that's projected to occur in the next 20 years, and we're going to divvy that up. And each jurisdiction is going to take its share of that growth based on its capacity, its developable land. And they need to plan to accommodate that growth. So that's where those targets come from. It's so that everybody takes their fair share. Kind of the broader picture of this also is that we're planning under the Growth Management Act of Washington. And the very broad picture of that is that we're protecting our open spaces. So we're containing urban growth within designated urban growth areas so that that growth does not just run roughshod over the countryside. So we see a lot of beautiful open space around us. If you look down the Snoqualmie Valley with all the farmland, if you look at the forest lands around North Bend, that is not developed specifically because we're developing within urban areas. So that's the context where we take that part of that urban growth, our share of that, and that's our growth targets.
And I guess I would just add too, that it's a plan for and accommodate. It's not, we're not heavy developers here. We're not funding necessarily all those projects. So that's a full build out scenario that we're unlikely to see. But if they all came, then we could, but it's going to take a long time. So.
And the second part of the question was, how do we address that growth? We have burdens on our infrastructure, our water system, our sewer system, et cetera. So as a part of planning under Washington, we also have concurrency requirements, which means that you have to test the levels of service for various facilities, including water, streets, traffic, sewer, a number of different facilities to make sure that a new development doesn't drop the levels of service beyond an established level. And if it does, the city cannot approve that development unless they provide improvements to make sure that that level of service stays at adopted level. So when a development comes in, they may need to do street improvements. They may need to do a new street light. They may need to add travel lanes. And so that as development occurs, our system-wide improvements are also occurring to keep up with that development. So that's the essential test before a development can be approved.
So the average term there is they mean the developer pays for that?
Correct. Yeah.
I'm sorry, sir, the public hearing is closed.
The water moratorium was lifted, I don't remember the year, 12 years ago. And so we do have adequate water and now sewer with our plant improvements.
Okay, there was a question about kind of where notice came from. Maybe some people got notices, others didn't. Our statute for notification requires us to notice property owners that are within 300 feet of a change. So if you look at the map up there, all the properties that are outlined in dark black, that was the boundary. We measure 300 feet out from each of those dark black areas and send the notice out to those property owners.
Sorry, sir, the public hearing is closed at this time. Thank you.
Okay, other questions that maybe I didn't?
There was one on the annexation question. So as part of the comprehensive plan, we do pre-annexation zoning. There are no plans at this time to annex the property that you were talking about. The petitioner, they would have to bring in a petition, has to be contiguous to the city, and then it would go through the annexation process. So just by changing the zone on our map for our comprehensive plan it's not in effect yet. It's still in the county.
And then another thing for the planning commission to consider with regard to the flood comment, that property is in the floodplain. A portion of it is also in the floodway. No development can occur within the floodway portion of the property. Within the floodplain, you can provide residential development. It has to be elevated to 2 feet above the base flood elevation. And they also have to provide compensatory storage so that any fill that you're bringing or other encroachments have an equivalent amount of fill or encroachments removed so that there's a net balance when the development is done.
And for any development that comes forward, there will be extensive plans
Mhm.
and steps before they can move forward. So the majority of it will be reviewed, not only by staff, but by the commission as well.
And FEMA in the case of floodplain. Yeah.
So I'll turn it back to commission, thoughts, comments.
I think there was one other comment. Sorry, Mr. Neighbors. Yeah. I'm going to comment about. And in essence, we have in a certain density. Can you explain a little more?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the growth targets, we have a target of 17, 25, something like that, additional residential units within the next 40 years, next 20 years. We have sufficient capacity for single family homes. We've got plenty of capacity for that. But what the legislature did this year also is recognizing the affordable housing crisis. They have sub-allocated those targets based on different income levels. So based on the area median income, they broke it down by 0 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 to 80, 80 to 100, and I think 100 to 120, and then 120 plus, so that you have targets at each of those levels. And the city of North Bend had plenty of single family homes, but where we were deficient with our targets was anything that was under 50% area median income. And the way that you accommodate that is multifamily housing. So that's where some of the amendments to allow second floor or above residential in some of our commercial zones, our interchange mixed use zone, our interchange commercial zone at the outlet mall, and then our neighborhood mixed use zone. So second floor or above, that helps us to accommodate those growth targets.
To make sure that everything that they requested or they asked was responded to the city. Can I open just to ask them if everything was responded to you?
Well, I appreciate the response, and well, for us, the response is actually seeing those maps change. So we look forward to that, and
No, just to understand if they responded what you were asking. Okay.
yeah.
All right, thank you. And I just also have a question regarding the first issue that was raised here related to that area. I just want to understand exactly what is the implication. If you like, can we put a note saying that public is not allowed to be there? What is the implication that if you cannot change the color, that was, I think, the issue, can we make a note or something that at least will not have any problem in the future, unless or before we have to change this next year?
Yeah, I think staff can answer that
Is
best.
there any way?
A number of them are private, like the chair mentioned. So we truly have a mix right now. We don't have any other footnotes on the table, do we? Where we could.
There is also parks, open space, and or public facilities. I understand their concern. I just want to make sure that or can try to do something that protects their private property as well. Is there a way that we can do this now, or
If underneath that, we could say in parentheses, private and public at this point. If you go to the property information, you will see it's owned by HOA, it's owned by city. You can find ownership that way.
Yeah, I think it would be very easy just to add an asterisk at this point to that saying private and public. And then maybe in the 2025 work plan, we can go back and more specifically revise the map to show separately private versus public.
are you guys okay with that?
Yep, we can talk to our GIS person tomorrow.
And then in the future, if we change colors, so then that's great.
Mhm.
We can add an asterisk. Can we change the color?
Well, that requires re-notification. So if we're suddenly
Breaking it apart.
breaking it apart, yeah.
into two.
There's gonna be like in your village, there's a park there too, that I know that the residents feel like is not.
Mhm.
So we have these issues. Right.
Mhm.
Right, yeah, it really is all over.
Yeah, I think once you make a change for one parcel, it ripples down. And so I think you're doing a very strategic approach to all the open spaces in 2025 is very helpful. Is across the board. So
Yeah.
I think that is a high priority to everyone in the room from that specific community. And I think staff will take that as a action for the 2025. Stick it to.
We have heard visual is important, so we have heard that color is important.
Mhm.
We make an effort to differentiate, not just with footnotes, but with visual.
They don't like green.
Like,
Right.
I love that we're talking open space. There's lots more on this. I don't know if we have any other feelings or thoughts about anything else. This update. You know, I think a lot of this, we as the commission have talked about before, so I don't feel like it's a lot of new information for us. So I'm happy to see it, and I really don't have any issues with it. I'm just happy to see these changes come forward and tidy things up, and from my standpoint, it's great.
We've come a long way. We've had little meetings that we've let them.
Mhm.
We have a lot of really good changes. It's not perfect, but I think I do like it.
Last night, council approved via resolution, the housing and land use elements of the comprehensive plan. So if you like to read about housing and land use, it's all updated there.
There are no other comment, questions, concerns? I think we are looking for-
Yeah, motion to approve with these text changes in the legend.
Mhm.
All in favor? None opposed? That carries. It looks like that's it for all the things, so,
The only thing, we could probably adjourn, but we wanted to just touch base on, I think, December calendar. I think the meetings would be the third, let's see here, I get the calendar. So the third, well, the fourth is a Wednesday. The fourth and the 18th are the regular meetings. Is there input by the planning commission to we would probably just have one is what we're
Well,
thinking.
hopefully, but also with the work program for 2025. We're scrambling to get that together to bring it to you for the 4th. And if we can't, we would want to bump that to the 18th.
Are there people enough of a quorum around on the 18th?
I'll be here, the fourth I will not be here, but.
Okay,
you know,
the rest of you are here on the 18th.
maybe the 18th is better.
Okay, I just didn't want to get too close to the holidays if that is a conflict. Okay, so we're open at this point. You wouldn't be able to make the 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Should we just leave it at that at this point? Okay. And then,
One meeting, or-
I think we could the other item is the planning commission procedures, which I know you provided, a lot of comments on. I don't know if everybody else, it's been so long. Okay, so you guys have seen it, but it's been a long time. I think it makes sense to bring them together versus
Yeah.
because I don't want to take up another evening. It's a busy time of year, so neither of them are going to be super lengthy. You guys are pretty efficient. We'll get, that would be the plan to bring both in one meeting.
So just come on the 18th then.
Yeah. And then, did you all receive an invite for the volunteer appreciation dinner? Okay. On the 11th, okay. Great.
All right. So at 7:20, we will adjourn.
Okay, thanks.